On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, the Oklahoma City Thunder get a blowout win over the Washington Wizards, even if the blowout didn't come until the final quarter. We'll talk about that, Shai's big night, and the Thunder starting five, plus more on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Styles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Styles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Thunder Pod. On today's show, brought to you by FanDuel. With the NFL playoffs almost here, it's not too late to get in on the regular season with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. We're diving into the Oklahoma City Thunder beating the Washington Wizards in blowout fashion by the end of the scoreboard, but not their cleanest game, not their best game of the year. Plus, the starting five is interesting to discuss. AJ Mitchell's career night. SGA goes for 41. It was an impressive game the entire way around once you got to the end of it. But I thought that this game was another testament to the grit of this Thunder team. If you were busy with your Christmas Eve plans and all you got to do was watch the box score and see how the game ended, and you saw the big fourth quarter lead, you saw the Thunder won 121-105 and once had a 21-point lead, you would imagine that this game went the way you were expected. Even our good friends at FanDuel thought that this game was going to be a blowout, a 17.5-point favorite the Thunder were, and that's a massive line in the NBA. It's an incredible line to try to cover, which the Thunder did tonight whenever you factor in garbage time buckets and things of that nature. But it was not garbage time. It was the Wizards coming out on fire in the first half and the first three quarters, really, thanks to the Thunder's lacking of defense. The Wizards end up shooting 39% from the floor, 37% from three after going 0 for 8 in the final frame, 85% at the charity stripe, compared to the Thunder's 44% at the field, 26% at the three-point line, and 86% from the charity stripe. I thought that, by and large, this was not by any means the Thunder's A game, not even close to it. And they did a lot more bad than good, frankly, in a game that they won 121-105. Jalen Williams went as far as to say that the defense sucked tonight for the majority of this game. All of that is true. What's also true is it's really hard to win in this league. It's really hard to pull games out this way. It's really hard to cover a 17.5-point spread, and the Thunder did all of those things. What went wrong to start the game? Frankly, a lack of energy, a lack of effort on the defensive end. I mean, and you saw a team that, in my opinion, was not playing together. There were moments where two of the five guys would have excellent switches, and the rest of the defense would lack in rotation, and you let up open threes for Washington. There were layup line triples, and the Wizards were knocking them down early. It ends with Jordan Poole having 5 for 12, including some Hail Marys from beyond the arc. But even you saw Keyshawn George have 3 for 6 from 3. Corey Kispert went 2 of 6 from 3. Bub Carrington went 4 of 8 from 3. These were just open jumpers that they were being let up because of the lack of defense, the lack of focus, the lack of execution. All of those things need to be cleaned up, and by and large are cleaned up. When you look at this season in totality. But whenever you preach the 0-0 mentality, you did not execute that 0-0 mentality for the vast majority of this game. With that being said, you have to give this Thunder team credit for getting back on the horse, clamping down in the fourth quarter, and strangling this game away, suffocating the Wizards and getting a win. What helped them do that, and what helped them lead for most of this game, the Wizards only had the lead from the middle of the first quarter all the way through the start of the second quarter. From there, it was a wire-to-wire victory for OKC, no matter how messy it got. At times only up 1, at times only up 2, but eventually they did swell a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter. There was only 4 lead changes and 5 ties. Like, for as messy as this game was, Washington still never found their footing, in large part due to one of the keys to the game. When you face a team like Washington, who has no true lead guard, they have an array of bad ball handlers, you have to capitalize on that with the passing lanes, which the Thunder did. they forced 19 turnovers in this game. That led to 24 fast break points to Washington's 16 fast break points. Now, the Thunder turned the ball over 12 times. Well, it's not an alarming amount. It still is abnormal for what this team has done night in and night out. But the big kicker, the Thunder dominate fast break points. They dominate second chance points, 22-8, including the most hustle of all hustle second chance effort whenever you saw AJ Mitchell get an and one at the rim, miss the free throw. Thunder get the rebound off that free throw, kick it out to AJ Mitchell. He hits a triple, and all of a sudden it's a 5-point possession for Oklahoma City. Points in the paint, the Thunder once again dominate a season high 68 points in the paint to Washington's 36. The Thunder typically win the points in the paint battle, but it's saying a lot to win it by that margin. The Thunder, by and large, tried to get downhill tonight, especially as that three-point shot was not falling. They went 10 for 38 from three to the tune of 26%. It was actually SGA leading the way from beyond the arc with Lou Dort going 0 for 5, J-Dub going 0 for 2, Isaiah Joe 1 for 5, more on him later, 1 for 2, Cason Wallace 1 for 5, Kenrich Williams 1 for 5, Aaron Wiggins, and then 2 for 3, AJ Mitchell to really help lift up the numbers a bit with SGA as Jay Will goes 1 for 3 in his return. So by and large, this is not a game to hang a banner about. This is not a game to give rave reviews, but it is a game worth noting in the resilience department. Not that the Thunder should have lost this game ever, even for the Wizards having an 8-point lead and for trimming the lead to 1 multiple times throughout this contest. But you certainly could have seen a more ugly score at the end based upon the way the Thunder played. So to course correct that mid-game is impressive, and it's what makes this Thunder team so good and keeps their point differential intact. They actually gave up 105 points tonight. That's the first time they've given up 100 or more points since the Dallas game in the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. They've been on a heck of a run defensively. Who would have guessed that it'd be the Washington Hornets to stop that streak? But they did, but they still could not cover in this one. And the Thunder get a win, and so now they head to the Christmas break here. No game Christmas Eve, no game Christmas Day. Begrudgingly, with the NBA schedule makers, they head on that with an 8-game winning streak and close the week with Indiana and Charlotte to close this week. And those are two big games. Those are two games that you cannot afford to start this way, especially Indiana. I know you're going to have this 2-day off period, but you've got to be back on track and back in sync defensively against those Pacers, because you just have to cleanly take care of business this week. You got to go 3-0. Whenever you look at the schedule, it's almost like a budget. Like, okay, what can we afford to do? Well, you cannot afford to really lose to Indiana or Charlotte, two teams that you're immensely better than, because on the back end of that, you're playing Minnesota, you're playing Memphis, you're playing the Clippers who've been resilient, you're playing New York, you're playing Boston. You are going to drop some of those games. So you can't afford to drop these gimme games like in Indiana, like in Charlotte, or like tonight in Washington. So to the Thunder's credit, they did not fall tonight. They got a blowout win. We'll talk about individual performances as well as the starting five, all coming up. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you do not need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, with the resourceful individual, you can get Robinhood Gold and can earn a very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of the high net worth to any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for just $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up today at robinhood.com/gold. Terms and conditions apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risks. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Subscribe on YouTube and any other podcasting platform that you have. I greatly appreciate that. And we're going to be here for you Christmas Eve, which is this show. Christmas Day, we're going to have a mailbag. So if you have questions, drop them on YouTube, drop them on Blue Sky, on Twitter at Rylan_Styles. And let's get into the second topic, which is, again, more of a big picture thing versus the in the weeds of this game, which we will get to. but another game in which the Thunder roll out Isaiah Joe in the starting five. And look, I don't know what data points that the Thunder need to stop doing this. They clearly have more information than we do. They clearly have a better basketball mind than we do. But you just look at what is available to us, our eyes, and the stats that are to the public. Everything bears out that Isaiah Joe should not be a starter. And that's no slight on Isaiah Joe. There are plenty of players in this league who are way better off the bench and way more comfortable off the bench. But not just individually for Joe anymore. It's about the whole tone and tenor of the game. And the game flows differently for the Thunder when Cason Wallace starts. You don't have these defensive lapses to start games. You saw when they put Cason Wallace in, he was an absolute ball hawk. He was blowing up possession after possession, and he could have done that in the starting five against these terrible Wizards lead guards in terms of protecting the basketball. He had 2 steals right out of the chute. He had more deflections than you could count, including one right after a made layup on the inbound. He had a block to go with that. He played excellent defense. He was a plus 22 in this game compared to Isaiah Joe, a -7. Now, plus minus in a one-game sample size is nothing to truly take to heart, but it just is another data point to go along with the eye test that when Cason Wallace is in the game, things are different. Specifically, when Cason Wallace is with the starters, things are different. And specifically on the defensive end, things are different. And so when you factor all that in, and then also factor in, you're sacrificing defensively to try to gain offensively, but you're also not gaining offensively. Like, you're also not gaining in that department either. Now, I think that Isaiah Joe is a capable shooter. I think that he's a streaky shooter, and he's not this knockdown, lights out, electric shooter that he is billed as, but he cannot shoot as a starter. And I think that there could be a myriad of reasons for that. Perhaps one reason would be when you're with the starting five, you look at the touches, and for a guy who needs a rhythm, you're coming in and Shai's going to get his touches early. Jacob's going to get his touches early. You're going to find Isaiah Hartenstein on a roll perhaps once or twice. You're going to have Lou Dort shoot a corner 3 once or twice. And now you've ran up and down the floor a few times and you haven't really gotten into a rhythm. And perhaps that's one reason why. But another reason could be he just is not comfortable out there. There's something going on where, as a starter, he shot 34% from 3 coming into this game. Off the bench, he shot 39% from 3. And it was at 40 for a long time, and above 40 from 3 for him off the bench. He went 1 for 5 tonight and 1 for 8 overall. 5 points, 3 steals, 1 assist, 2 rebounds. You're sacrificing defense, not to say that Joe's a bad defender, but he's no Cason Wallace, and few are. He's giving you his best efforts defensively. He's giving you his best efforts on both ends. It's just not leading to production. It's just not leading to what you want it to, which I imagine is this shot gravity to unpack the paint. Well, it did not work against Milwaukee. It did not work tonight. And it did not see his shots fall because of it. Like, you would imagine that if they're going to load up and try to pack the paint on J-Dub and Shai, then he gets open threes. He makes open threes, bada bing, bada boom. It does not go that way. And we see this same story unfold over and over and over again through Isaiah Joe's time as a starter. I just think that he can be a really, really, really good player off the bench. And in his 9 starts, he has not been a good player. On the flip side, Cason Wallace not only brings you what is necessary and required as a spark defensively, but he plays off the starters really well. He's a better cutter, and he's a better feel for the game of, like, feeling how to find the soft spot in the defense and sit down in open space, whether that be from cutting to the rim, whether that be in the dunker spot, whether that be in the corner. He has a better feel for playing off of guys who need touches than Isaiah Joe does, in my opinion. So he gives you that bonus. And it's not as though you are wanting to hold on to Cason and bottle up the spark he gives you because you want that in the second push of the game. Whether you're playing great or playing bad, you still want that spark. It's not as though he's the only guy who gives you that. Part of the reason that you've not started Alex Caruso is because he also gives you a spark. He also gives you higher intense defense, and he can wake the team up and rattle some cages. So you don't sacrifice that either, all while making Isaiah Joe, frankly, better. The numbers bear it out that he is better off the bench than he is as a starter. And we have a pretty good sample size now of both of those things. So I can't explain it. I don't really know why the Thunder like to start Isaiah Joe, but in 9 games compared to 16 games, and now we have a 10th game on the resume compared to 16 games because Basketball Reference does not kind of update this until the next morning. But it's not look good for Isaiah Joe as a starter. And you can afford to do it. The Thunder have a deep roster. They have the benefit of overcoming slow starts. They're a resilient group. There's no harm in it. But I just think that the best version of this team, of this healthy team, is to have the starting 5 be Shai, Cason, Lou Dort, J-Dub, and Hartenstein. Who knows what we'll see moving forward, but that lull could have really bit you against a better roster and a better team. But it did not bite you tonight. And Isaiah Joe still working through some things. I don't think that you want to totally abandon it. So I guess I get why Mark is going back to it. But if you don't want to abandon it yet, it's getting close to that abandoned point for this experiment. Lou Dort goes 0 for 5 from 3, 0 for 6 from the floor overall. And so you just see 2 guys who did not make their open shots tonight in that starting 5 compound the problem a little bit with one another. But overall, we can get now into the threat of things for this game. SGA played 35 minutes, a wacky rotation for him. I asked Mark and Shai and J-Dub after the game about the different rotation because Mark said, whenever I asked him, that it was not necessarily like a plan going into the game at all. It was hey, J-Dub really had it going in that first quarter, which he did. You look at the first quarter for Jalen Williams, and he had a couple of these wacky and ones, which we'll talk about later. He was 5 for 7, 11 points. They did not want to take him off the floor, so they took Shai off the floor instead in the first quarter, who did not score his first points until the very end of the first quarter. He had 2 points in the first quarter, but ends up with 41 points, 3 steals, 3 blocks, 3 assists, 9 rebounds for him. He's the only player in Thunder or Sonics history to ever put up that stat line, 10 for 10 at the free throw line, 3 for 6 from 3, 56% shooting from the floor. Shai was spectacular. This was every bit the MVP performance you'd expect from him, and he made MVP level plays all night. I mean, the and one where he takes the ball and wraps it around his back without it touching the floor and throws it up for the and one, that looks like something out of a mixtape that you would see on the blacktop. This does not look like what you would see in the NBA. And I kind of refer it in a way to Patrick Mahomes of these are 2 improvisers, because he was asked by Joe Mazzato after the game if he's ever worked on that shot attempt. And he said, no, it just came to him in the middle of a game. And I think it's similar to what you see with Mahomes, where he does things that you've never seen before. He does things that you're not expecting. And even he is not expecting it. It's just that great improv and an ability to play to his own beat to his own drum. And it's funny that Sam Presti often talks about kind of jazz and how that relates to basketball. And Shai is the best riffer in the business. I mean, he can riff off of anything, and he did a great job tonight on both ends of the floor. Overall, defensively, he was one of those victims that we talked about in the first segment, where a couple guys make excellent rotations and he gets caught in no man's land. He's not really engaged. But to his credit, he regrouped, he rallied, and he really found his groove. He had 3 blocks. He had a block on Jared Butler at the end of the quarter, and he blocked him twice. But at the time, courtside only gave him one of those 2 blocks. Now he's up to 3 blocks for the game. In he actually ended up getting a block on Butler twice, whenever courtside only have him getting it once. But good job from him. It was a really fun game for SGA, where he just showed you why he is the MVP of this league, because J-Dub had it going in the first quarter, but finishes with 17 points on 38% shooting from the floor. Not what you need in your co-star in this game. And the Thunder still get a blowout win. And he went scoreless pretty much for the first quarter. It was 11 and a half minutes gone by in the first before he checked it on the scoreboard, and he had 41 points. Coming up, let's talk J-Dub, let's talk AJ Mitchell, and the rest of this roster. But first, I want to say right now, put your friends over at FanDuel. Go check out FanDuel today, because the NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which player will score the first touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's truly thrilling to add that to your repertoire when watching these games. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Make every moment more at FanDuel. And if you're only into the NBA, no problem. The Christmas Day slate is chock full, including Wembanyama taking on the Knicks in Madison Square Garden, where the Spurs are 9.5-point underdogs at FanDuel. Go check them out today at FanDuel.com. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Merry Christmas Eve to everyone out there. Now, Jalen Williams, what a first quarter it was. He had two just of the craziest and ones I've ever seen, where he gets fouled on the gather, loses the ball. They give him continuation to regroup the ball in the air, throw up a shot, and he nailed it twice. Me and Royce Young were sitting next to each other, and neither one of us had ever seen that before. And to see it twice in a row was crazy. 3 for 4 from the free throw line from him, 0 for 2 from 3, 38% from the floor, 38.9. So let's just give him 39% from the floor. 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 17 points, and a -8. He waned a little bit on the offensive end. I think that he saw 2 different really hot spurts and a lot of tough times in between. He had a really nice stretch in the middle of the third quarter. He had a really good first quarter, which Mark talked about, to kind of change the rotation pattern a bit, but it was lackluster otherwise. Overall, I thought that one of the positives from Jalen Williams' game was he was getting downhill. Whenever he was scoring the ball and at its best, he was getting downhill stronger. He was bumping defenders off his spots. He was taking tighter angles, not looping around to the rim. He was taking a tight beeline angle to the rim, putting his body into guys to free himself up. When he struggled, he got away from that. He settled for more floaters when he could just go punish the rim. He did some of those old habits whenever he struggled in this game. It's got to be more consistent. It's got to be better than this, but the Thunder do get the win. AJ Mitchell has a career night, his first ever career double-double. He had 12 rebounds in this game. 12 rebounds is the game high for the Thunder, and he was only lagging behind Jonas Valanciunas, who had 16. Unreal. He had one more than Hartenstein. He had 12 rebounds, 16 points, 2 assists, and a steal for him. The 16 points is a career high for him as well, as his first ever double-double. He went 2 for 3 from 3. He went 2 for 3 at the free throw line. He went 6 for 7 overall. The most impressive thing about AJ Mitchell's game is that you don't really know where this thing is going to end. And I don't mean in 5 years. I mean this season, because you look at his game so far and how it's progressed. He's always been good enough to play. As Mark put it after the game, there's a reason why he's been a staple of their rotation since opening night. But one of the things he struggled at was converting and carrying over his really high, rim finishing numbers from his college days. And so I just think that with AJ Mitchell, you've already seen him improve as a finisher, and that's been key to his success. He's getting downhill hard. He's being able to finish through contact, and now he did get the whistle, to have the and one and have another trip to the line. I thought that was impressive from him. We'll see how much his whistle changes. He is just a rookie, so he's got to fight through some of that contact, which he's been really good at so far in his career. So I say that to say this. We're at Christmas, and he's already made this significant improvement to change his offensive game, which now opens up passing lanes. It opens up the ability to score the ball more. And we don't even know what this looks like come March, come April, at the end of the day. We raved about Cason Wallace, but he was ferocious off of the bench. Kenrich Williams was solid in this game. He really got 8 rebounds and had 3 steals on a block. He was really good defensively to change the course of this game. 7 points as the 3-point shot did not fall, but that's been rare from him so far this year, that the 3-point shot did not fall. Wiggins couldn't have the 3 either, 1 for 5, but he did score 7 points and have a rebound. Not the best night from Wiggins, but you still saw him have some flashes. Alex Caruso. He did not get it going at all scoring the basketball, just 2 points. But he made play after play after play defensively, including 2 steals, including a massive hustle play where he wrestled away the steal, dove on the floor to collect the loose change, tossed it over to SGA for a mid-range jumper. Unfortunately, whenever he dove on the floor, he injured himself. We didn't get clarification on what the part of the body was injured, so we won't speculate. But Mark did say that they set him out for the rest of the game because they want to be conservative. It's only December. You have these 2 days off. There's no further update on him yet because they're going to check him out. And no, made his season debut. He immediately hits a 3. He went 1 for 3 overall, had 1 rim out and 1 air ball, and it might have grazed the side of the rim. It looked like to me that it grazed the side of the rim, but a lot of you watching on TV said that it was an air ball. Either way, 1 for 3 in 7 minutes of action, 3 points, 2 rebounds, and a block for him. I thought that J. Will played as good as you can in a 7-minute stretch. You can't overreact to it. He moved really well for a guy coming off of a hamstring injury. That was great from J. Will. But what was more impressive was the crowd's reaction and reception to J. Will. He had 3 different ovations in this game. When they show pregame at the Paycom Center, when these guys are warming up for the layup lines, the very last warm-up of the game, they go through each player on the roster. They flash their name and autograph on the screen. And whenever J. Will got shown, the place erupted. Whenever J. Will went to the scores table for the first time, it not only erupted, he not only got a standing ovation, that ovation carried over through an entire free throw. SGA had to, of course, shoot the first free throw to get J. Will in the game, and that entire free throw, they were just going crazy. And then when he did enter the game, they went nuts. And then he plays that 4-minute stretch, comes back in the fourth quarter for the second time. The second time he goes to the scores table with the game in hand, the crowd was still rowdy and rooting him on and kind of welcoming him back to OKC. I thought that was a really impressive display by Thunder fans. Isaiah Hartenstein, another double-double for him, 16 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks, 2 for 2 at the free throw line, 7 for 12 overall, had that push shot working a couple times, had a couple lobs from J-Dub to him. Alex Caruso threw a lob to Cason Wallace as well in this game, which was fun, but you saw Isaiah Hartenstein and J-Dub continue to show off their impressive 2-man chemistry. I thought that was all great from this game. Now, again, tomorrow's show on Christmas will be a mailbag episode, so get your questions below for what you want to hear about on the show. We'll have another show for you grading out the first quarter of the season ahead of that Pacers game. Of course, the Pacers recap, and then the rest of the week flows easily from there, but that's how we're going to navigate through this holiday stretch. So thank you so much for listening to Locked On Thunder. The support has been incredible. I really appreciate that. I saw a couple of you at the game. I really appreciate that as well. So if you ever see me at the game, feel free to say hi. But it's blown me away, the support for this show over the years, especially this season. I cannot tell you how grateful I am. So if a lot of you are busy Christmas Eve and Christmas, I get it, and don't listen. So I want to tell you now, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Let's see how this Thunder season continues to unfold. And until next time, be good and be good to one another.